Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spectrum Drama, where we take a look at the hottest posts on Spectrum for the week and give our opinions on them. So, before we get started, there is a lot to talk about this week, and there's a lot going on. So first things first, we still have our giveaway running for the entirety of the month of December. So if you want to be in with your chance to win that Cutlass Red, the awesome Cutlass Red, then all you need to do is comment on this and every video in the month of December. And don't forget, we are going to attempt to give it away on Christmas Day. Fingers crossed. So as soon as I have given it away, you may stop commenting with GA. But for now, please, if you can just add parentheses GA, and that will let me know that you want to win. And also, this month we have the amazing event coming up on the 22nd of December, which is on Sunday. So put that in your calendars. It is an all-day event. It is going to feature a bunch of streamers. You'll see them on the screen now. And basically, it's going to be huge numbers of giveaways and just awesome streams to watch. So the hope is that you guys are going to flit around between all the different streams, trying to, gather up some goodies. There's going to be ships to give away. It's going to be very, very interesting. So definitely, if you can make that on the 22nd, it will be worth your while. And that leads me into our big news. So this week's special guest we have with us ThatCrazyTonkGuy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well, and thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah,
welcome.
A pleasure. Now, the reason that so smoothly runs in is because ThatCrazyTonkGuy is taking part in this stream as well. So he will also be giving away stuff, and we're all going to basically work together to give everyone an awesome Sunday. So it should be fun. Now, are you ready for the posts that we have for you this week?
I'm definitely excited to get into them for sure.
Good. Okay, well, there we go. Let's get started. Okay, so first up, we've got a post from Annabelle Boo Huxley, and it says, best pillar talk so far. Answered so many questions. Thank you, guys. So basically, if you guys haven't seen it, there is a new pillar talk out for Alpha 3.8, and it is pretty good. I mean, they cover everything, let's face it, we already know, but they do cover it very concisely. It's very, very professional, and it kind of tells us all the things that we, already know, but like to hear again, I suppose. What do you guys think of the pillar talk so far? Do you think that it was even worth a video, or do you think that it kind of gave us a little bit more insight into 3.8?
It was definitely an upgrade from 3.7's one. That one got some serious hate. I think we actually reported on that as well.
Yeah.
Because I think it was the most downvoted CIG video ever made at the point. But this is definitely back on form. It's good to hear, these guys just hashing things out. But like you say, it's nothing that we didn't really already know. I'm not sure quite what questions came up that Boo Huxley heard and I didn't, but there you are.
What about you, Mr. Tonk? How did you feel about the pillar talk?
I mean, anytime you get those four men in a room together, it's always a good time, but it was really good seeing Chris Roberts back. Anytime Tony Z has an explanation, I think it's always good to listen to, because he's just a mastermind. He really is. And I thought it was a massive improvement over 3.7's. It's one of those things, they're still testing the waters and, figuring out what they want to put out and stuff like that. But I think with 3.8 video, it's a really good way of looking forward, or it's a good stepping stone of what we all appreciate. Which is just getting some answers about this amazing game. It doesn't always have to be spot on or the endeavors coming in 4.1, but I like at least knowing, this is what we're working on. These are some of the issues we're having with object container streaming. This is what we're dealing with server side. Like getting to know just even the server side frame rates that we were dealing with 5 to 7, and now we're getting 30. Like that feels so good to hear as not only a player, but as somebody that's had doors fail on them and had different issues, just because the server's lagging behind. So I think it's good news for everybody, and there seems to be a lot of talk, like, oh, this doesn't mean frame rate's going to increase and stuff like that, but there are other positives, and I definitely think they should be admired and shined upon, and I think this video was a really good point at doing that, or did a really good point at doing so.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing with this video as well to sort of bear in mind is, for anyone that's new, maybe just backed, doesn't really know too much about the actual development, hasn't been following it like we have religiously, it's quite a good little breakdown of kind of everything that's in this patch and kind of what it does. And I love the fact that especially with Chris Roberts, because let's face it, he's a proper nerd, he loves this game, and his descriptions of stuff, he even jumps in when people are describing something to describe it better. It's good. So I think it is definitely a useful video, especially for newer people. But yeah, I wish we had some sort of snippet in there that was kind of like a teaser maybe for something new. That would have been nice.
I'm not sure if you caught up on this, but it looks like they recorded this in the lobby of CitizenCon.
Yeah.
And you could see above one of the backboards they've got there that you could see the skyline. And throughout the course of the video, you can see the light fading. So
right.
I think they were there talking for quite a while, but they've really chopped it down into like a 20-minute video.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame, because I would have liked it to have been an hour long of them just talking. That would have been cool.
Would have been good if they could have an uncut version come out, because I mean there's a lot of times when you can see, like Tony Z especially has some sort of a point to make and it just kind of gets edited out, and I'm like, oh come on, whatever he had to say would have been awesome, you should have left it in. Yeah, that would have been cool. Maybe have a little best of for Alpha 3.8 or something.
I definitely think when it comes to content or even discussing the game, the more they can get out, the better. Even if it's just kind of, talking about the future or things that they want to do. I mean, we literally feed off of that, on a day-to-day basis. I mean, it's really good just to even kind of have stuff to discuss and even just to talk about on, YouTube videos. So yeah. I think it's really good that, they even have these kinds of discussions. But yeah, it's interesting that you point that out. There's probably, 2-3 hours of talking, but we probably only saw about, 10 or 20% of it. Yeah. It's sad. I definitely agree on that point, especially when it comes to Tony Z.
Yeah.
I love his discussions, and especially the CitizenCon segments that they had for him.
Yeah.
Absolutely superb.
Stole the show.
He did. He really did. Chris who?
Cool. So next up we've got a post from Leonin, and it says, why is this flight model so bad? Ships used to feel so responsive and precise, but now, is this Star Citizen on ice? Etc, etc. So basically the gist of this is ships don't really fly very well anymore. It's basically it. They've kind of ruined the flight model, and now kind of a lot of ships do tend to just kind of slide through space. I do agree and I don't agree. I've got mixed feelings on this, but let's find out from Monsieur Tonk. What's your experience with the flight model now, as opposed to when we had hover mode and stuff like that? How do you feel about it?
I'm really glad they made the changes to hover mode the way they did. I think having the user control instead of it being automatic was a great change. But I find, especially when it comes to when you're going like 2,000 meters a second and you're in, just the brink of space, the thrusters don't really have enough power. And while, you are traveling 2,000 meters a second, most people do forget, that's Mach 2 plus. I mean, you are traveling quite fast, but I really wish thrusters had a little bit more of an impact, because some ships, do have, 12, 16, sometimes even more thrusters. And I just kind of feel like those could use a little bit more tweaking. And maybe just, some adjustments on how they propel or use in any sense.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the middle as well, I think. I've got no real problems with the flight model as it is. I can see why they've done the changes that they did, and I kind of agree with what they've got. there are some aspects that I'm not so happy about. I've said this before, I kind of liked hover mode. So when they ripped it out, I was a bit gutted about that. The drifting, these are big, heavy ships. They're not just going to stop on a dime. But like what Tonk says, that they could do with tweaking the thrusters a little bit to make it kind of in the middle, maybe.
Yeah.
Just make them slightly more powerful. That opening statement of why is this flight model so bad, I don't really believe it is as bad as what this guy is kind of moaning about. But it's going to come down to each person's individual opinion, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think bad's the wrong word to use. Different, I think, is the right word, because it's very different from the previous flight model we had. It is driftier, and they wanted that. I mean, they've always said that these ships are huge. There's so much momentum built up that trying to correct that momentum requires a hell of a lot of thrust, because it's not just the same amount of thrust to go back the other way at the same speed. Do you know what I mean? It's amplified. There's maths and stuff involved, and I'm no good at that. But it's tricky. But I agree that I think it is just a tiny bit too drifty. Like there are times when I'm not going very fast, and my maneuver is to basically do a J-turn in space, and I can't do them anymore at all. I'll go backwards for about 2 minutes before my ship actually goes, oh, okay, we're going to go forwards now. That's frustrating, and I miss hover mode very badly because there's no hover anymore. All of the systems they've got in place now don't seem to kick in anywhere for me. I can basically just mobile turret anywhere I want, and what I loved about the hover mode, and this you'll see this in our videos, what I loved so much about the hover mode was there's a point when there was about 5 of us in different ships all around a random base on a planet somewhere, and just watching all these different ships and the way that they all handled hover mode differently. So some were really nippy, and then you had some people in freelancers that were just like boats that had, come unmoored and just floating around, and it was awesome, and I loved that. And they've gotten rid of that completely. All the ships now just basically handle the same, and that's a shame.
I definitely agree with that, and I find I definitely don't want to dumb it down too much, but I feel like it's almost a jousting match in a lot of different scenarios, where I almost feel, and I don't want them to mess around with it too much, but I feel like the top speed for our ships is a little bit too high. I would like to see, maybe 600 meters, 700 meters a second be more of the general norm. I don't know. I feel like 1200 is just a bit too high. I definitely understand why it's that high. Like these moons and these planets are massive, of course. But at the same time, maybe find some sort of, balance in there. Maybe when you're going in a straight line, have a little bit more of an openness where you can just continue to accelerate. I mean, in the brink of space, technically nothing should slow you down, even though that's not the physics model that we use. It would be nice, because it's a video game, to have some sort of balance, because Mach 2 jousting isn't the most interesting if you run out of missiles. And it becomes very difficult for players that are just playing casually. For players like us, we'll definitely get used to it and we'll adapt. And it's good to have a learning curve in any game. But for those newer players that are just jumping in on a free play weekend, or those newer players that are just kind of stopping by for a couple of days and playing with their friends, or just even the more casual, relaxed person, it might be very overwhelming and might actually be a massive turnoff in a lot of scenarios. I don't know. I'm curious to see just if it is tweaked. I think it is, not excessive at this point. Like it's not too high that it's impossible to fight. I mean, I've definitely had some good scraps, but I think there's definitely some room for adjustment where, I mean, where you accelerate to, 400, 600 meters a second as fast as you do in some of these fighters, it is kind of crazy and overwhelming at some points.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, pretty much agree with that. Yeah. Maybe it is too high. I get exactly what you mean about the jousting, though. That is a big kind of frustration for me. In any kind of PvP fight we've had, your opponent just sort of shoots off maximum speed, and you have to chase after them, and then they're going to just come back at you at full speed and fire some random missiles at you because that's all they can do.
Yeah,
it's kind of very predictable and boring.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it'll start to feel a lot more responsive and a lot more precise for, what this player is talking about. Because at the end of the day, if things are slowed down a bit, I mean, I don't think anybody's really, this is beyond pod racing.
Yeah.
This is fast. I mean, Mach 2, most of our jets nowadays can't even reach those speeds. I mean, it's just not a good to travel at speed. It's very, very dangerous. And even just, in a future sense, I would more on like to see that just for getting from point A to point B in straight lines.
Yeah,
I agree. Okay, so next up we've got a post from Silent One, and it says, "Why no Milky Way? Would be a good reference point in combat and navigation." The gist of this is, according to Silent One, we should in theory be able to see the Milky Way from anywhere. So it would be a good point of reference for navigation. I am not the science guy, so I'm gonna pass this on to someone else. Anyone here know what a Milky Way is?
Well, yeah, all the systems that we're going to be playing in are technically within the Milky Way, so
yeah.
Should you be able to see it? Well, yeah. But at the moment, all we've got is a random skybox. I think he's kind of looking into things a bit too much right now.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, this is the same kind of skybox that we've had for forever.
Yeah.
And they just haven't needed to change it yet. I'm sure they will at some point, but it's probably extremely low on their priority list.
I definitely think we have some pretty good points of reference. I really like, the Crusader in itself as just a landmark. I don't know. I'm wondering just if it would have any sort of problems or if it would bring up any sort of issues. Maybe even just where it's located would make it harder to place different locations around the verse. I'm definitely for it if it helps, but I know it's definitely on a long list of things that probably do want to get added, but it's probably a technical limitation, I think.
Oh yeah, I'd make you right there, and I think that's it's the last thing really that we need at the minute, because let's face it, CIG aren't exactly focusing on navigation. Who needs compasses? I think it's a good idea, Silent One. I think it would be something that would be nice to see. It would be familiar, but I think that I think we're quite a long way off from that just yet.
Yeah, we've got some kind of star constellations in there already. Which you can use for kind of reference points if you really want to, but I think most people just don't really pay much attention to the backdrop so much. They're usually in third-person camera and spinning around the ship, being an R in the model.
Yeah, we've all got computers that just tell us where these places are. We don't really need visual navigation. I mean, useful, if you get kind of like stuck out and you have to push your ship, but unless your computer isn't working, I think you'll be all right. Cool. So next up, we've got a post from Asim Lebom, I'm assuming, and it says 3.8 quantum times. Thank you, CIG, for the reduced speed for testing. Now, the reason I said speed is because I don't think they reduced the speed. I think they reduced the time it takes, which would probably be an increased speed. But anyway, logic aside, yes, I agree. And I know people are moaning about this. A lot of people are moaning and saying, "Oh God, no, we want it to be like really long, and so that I can, go off and go to work and come back and I've warped." No one wants that. We like a bit of warping, but I kind of think they've got it right now. I think they've got a pretty good balance. What do you think? Yeah,
I'm kind of happy with the speed reduction increase. What? That threw me off. Yeah, I can see why they would want to put it in. Hopefully, it's a kind of permanent thing, because there's a theory going that it's just temporary, so people can get to Microtech a bit quicker for testing in the PTU. But hopefully, it stays in there, because it does feel a little bit better actually. I think before it was like a 10-minute quantum jump, and now it's like a 6-minute. It's definitely noticeable from what we had early on, and I'm kind of hoping it's going to stay.
So personally, I'm kind of the belief that I like the long quantum travel times, and if you read into some of the replies, I think some people make a really good point that, especially from a military perspective or point of view, having Hammerheads, Polarises, Idrises capable of traveling as fast as the 890 jump can, or faster, I think will bring a lot of its own problems. And as some people have mentioned, especially for miners and people that want to do trade runs, cargo runs, it'll be very hard to evade and avoid these people, even if killing them. So I kind of like the longer travel times. I kind of like the extra wait times at train stations. Like, don't get me wrong, in alpha I think it's really great that they're a lot shorter. It's better for testing, but I think long term it would be better if we saw the times kind of averaged out, or kind of in a more realistic sense, because 43 million kilometers is a very far distance, and to just be right back and have a full warship with 20-30 players, a bunch of fighters, it's going to be very hard to counter, even with ships like the Mantis and stuff being able to slow down these people. I definitely do like the longer times. In 3.8, in 3.7, it's great that they're shorter, because the universe is so massive now. But I definitely don't mind the longer times in the long run, and I definitely don't think it's a good idea to get them too fast. 6 minutes is a pretty okay time. I think that's what you were saying there.
Yeah, something around 6 minutes, I think.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's definitely not too fast. I think that gives the player enough time to get out of there, and you got to add on to going to the spaceport, spawning a new vehicle, filing insurance, doing whatever. So let's say it's about 10 minutes or 15. I think that's a pretty reasonable amount of time in alpha. But later on, I'd like to see that a bit higher, maybe 20, 25. I do like the feel of it being a little bit more realistic in that sense, just for game balance. And I know that's kind of a lame way of doing it, but I think it'll be really good just to kind of also curb a lot of malicious gameplay, so that there's a little bit higher of a consequence curve as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you guys think.
Longer travel times would be, if there was, this is a common argument that comes up with travel times in Star Citizen. If there was more to do while you were in Quantum Jump, then it wouldn't feel as long. That makes sense. So when we get these kind of dynamic missions and events happening while we're in Quantum, then it will make it feel shorter, although they will be long. So I'm really looking forward to when she put some of that stuff into the universe.
Yeah, it's going to make a big difference. Currently, I think having shorter travel times is better, because we are just kind of doing the same basic stuff over and over again, and for most of that to just be warping is boring, and I think that's what's getting to people. But like you said, once we've actually got gameplay in that allows us to kind of take advantage of that time to be doing something else, yeah, it's going to be awesome. And then I can see definitely much longer quantum jump times and stuff like that. It's going to be interesting.
And it'll be really exciting, like we have mini games that we can play, like we have pool. There's a basketball court in the 890 jump.
Yeah.
Like there will be activities to do on the ship, including eating. Making sure that your character is nourished and all healed up and, good to go for his next fight. I mean, it's really actually exciting even just to talk about. But it's good that it's shorter. I do agree. But yeah, in the future, I would like to see it a bit longer again, for sure.
One thing to mention is that this is just the standard system. When we go to if we go to Pyro, we might have much longer travel times because the planetary bodies are further apart.
Yeah.
So everyone's referencing Stanton, but we don't know what the other systems are going to be like yet.
Yeah.
Or how far away.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so last up we've got a post from Srilan, and it says about ship Q&A and facepalm award-winning questions. Now we've covered this a few times. It is our personal pet peeve. Is that the Q&As for most of the stuff that Star Citizen do are just crap, and the questions are terrible, and yeah, we genuinely dislike almost every Q&A we've ever covered, because they cover questions that have already been answered in brochures and stuff. It's just a lot of the time it is a waste of time. Now, Kryko, I know that you have things to say about this, so I'm taking off the leash. Go.
Let me loose.
Yeah.
I'm sure about that. I can't understand how half of these questions get voted up. Firstly, I can't understand how someone asks these questions. There was one in the Pisces Q&A which really got on my tits. It was, can the Pisces float or something like that?
Oh,
what kind of a question is that?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, it's most of the time irrelevant.
That's not a Pisces specific question. That is a ship related question, and that's just that you should not be anywhere near the Pisces Q&A. If that's the best the community can come up with, then I'm kind of losing hope here. So that's the first part of it. The second part is that people actually upvoted these questions.
Yeah.
Like, really, there was much better questions, a lot further down, but it seems to be a thing on Spectrum. If you put your question in first, it gets the most upvotes.
Yeah.
And people that come to that submitting questions part at a later time, they don't get as much, they don't get as many eyeballs on it, and it just doesn't get upvoted up off the bottom. It's infuriating. I don't know why this keeps happening. It keeps getting complained about by multiple people on Spectrum and us, but nothing changes. It's just there was one about I think on Planetary Tech. They did a Planetary Tech Star Citizen Live recently, so they were asking for questions for that, and some of the questions that were coming up in that were just as bad. They were like, what's the first animal that's going to be introduced into the verse?
Yeah.
Again, it's not even a Planet Tech question. How is that upvoted?
Yeah. Mental.
And I think, a really good precedent that they should start is, just because it's top upvoted doesn't mean that it should be answered. I mean, if the question's posted and it's a good question, I don't think it should be relevant whether it has 1 like or 40. I think it'll definitely help them see the question, and it should definitely, help them kind of narrow down the answers. But I kind of feel like some of them are just brushed aside because it doesn't have 20 upvotes or whatever that norm is for that week. And while, I definitely don't want to, encourage things or say that anything is going on, it's not two-factor authenticated voting.
No.
You can use multiple accounts to upvote your same answer, and I'm not saying people do it. I'm not saying I've ever seen anybody do it, but it's not the perfect system that these questions are being filtered through. It really upset me, even just the way the Kraken sales were handled. You typed up this whole thing in this whole form, and then at the end of the day, they just broke it down into how much each player has invested into the game. You know, it's great that, you know, we feel like we're being heard, but it's kind of like talking to a wall sometimes. So I kind of wish a little bit more care and time was spent into reading all of the different, you know, questions or replies. Because I mean, even if there's, you know, 100 or 200, there's got to be some good ones in there. There's got to be better ones than, you know, can the Pisces float? That really actually upset me as well. So it's funny that you brought that up. I actually was chuckling so hard off air.
You should have seen our Discord when Kryko saw that one. He was like, ah!
It's not even... I mean, I don't want to shoot it down. But at the same time, you know, I think there's a time and place for that question, and I don't think that was the time or place.
Definitely not the Pisces Q&A for that one. No.
I think the biggest problem is you get, let's say you get 100 people asked questions. Now, the people who are first, they either don't have like a well thought out question because they've not thought about it. They've just jumped on. A lot of the questions, as you'll see, are like people just picking something out the brochure and asking that question. They'll just go, so, does it have wings? And there's a picture.
How many
of it
wings
with
does it have?
Yeah, and you're like, just use your fucking eyes. You know, it isn't rocket science. But then, you know, you go down like 60 questions down the list, and that's when people have really took the time to think about their question, and they've gone like, you know, the most amazing philosophical question about the ship, and it gets glossed over because people can't be asked to upvote anymore. That's basically it. And it's a shitty way of doing it. And they really, really need to rethink it. I think what they need to do is get a little core community group that vote on the questions. So they go, all right, we've got 100 questions. And then those questions then get passed to this group of, say, 20 or 30 people. And they all, like a jury, pick the questions they think are the most clever, you know, and the most fitting. And then at least we're going to get something that isn't just a bunch of people just going, oh, well, I just clicked. Basically. That's my plan.
I definitely agree, and I think that's a good idea. And, you know, I think the time constraint is also kind of one of the things, because I know people know these Q&As are coming. They should be able to write down a couple of, you know, different things that they want to post. But sometimes, you know, they're at work, they're, you know, busy, whatever. And yeah, it definitely does influence massively when you make these posts. I always kind of joke whenever I watch these bigger YouTube channels and YouTube videos, there's two comment sections. There's the general comments that you see that are just in front of you that, you know, load in automatically. And then you click newest comments and you can see a whole different world of perspective. So, you know, I'm not saying I'm perfect or that's the perfect idea, but it would kind of be nice to see them take some lower voted answers instead of it just being, you know, the most voted. I really like the suggestion that you made there. Even just having like a small, you know, almost like an EV Kotick group.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of pre-screens the questions. Or even just having, you know, a mass list of, you know, questions that we could even vote on, you know, out of these two questions, what do you like? Or, you know, I kind of feel like they could also kind of take the bat sometimes too, where, you know, will the arrow be able to fit in a Polaris, an 890 jump, and certain, you know what I mean? Certain things that, you know, people are going to ask. Is the mole going to be able to fit in the Polaris? Well, no. But you can still feel like people are, you know, going to ask silly things. Is it ever going to fit in a larger ship? No. And that might not be the best example, but I'm just trying to use the Ares. The Ares would be a better example. Will the Ares be able to fit in the Kraken's landing pads, or will it be able to fit in the landing bay of the 890 jump? You know, like, it's kind of nice to know, especially if it's a concept ship, and I kind of feel like they could kind of take the bat sometimes when it comes to some of these Q&As. I don't know. I'm definitely open-minded for any sort of changes, because I kind of feel like this is tier 1 Q&A implementation, and we need to get tier 2 sometime soon. It needs to go on the roadmap at least.
Definitely. Okay, so there you have it, folks. That is all the posts for this week. We hope you liked them. We hope you found them informative or amusing. If you did like them, then don't forget to click that like button and subscribe for more Star Citizen content. And just a massive, massive thank you to Tonk. Thank you very, very much for joining us this week.
Oh, no, dude. Guys, thanks for having me. And I really do mean that.
It's a pleasure, man. So before we go on to a few more bits, why don't you give us kind of an idea of, anything you've got coming up in the next few weeks? Obviously Christmas might be in the way, but and maybe a little bit about your streaming schedule, so that if any of our subscribers want to come along and check you out.
So I am live with Star Citizen every Saturday and Sunday. We have a massive Christmas event going on here on December 22nd. Crazy amounts of giveaways and stuff. It's going to be absolutely packed with different streamers, viewers coming in, and we're going to try and absolutely break and crash some servers. So it's going to be a really fun day for sure. So I gotta mention that one. But in the near future, just relaxing and enjoying Star Citizen 3.8 for what it is. Most of the times I'm live Saturday and Sunday, but I want to start incorporating more days into Star Citizen, so you'll probably see me live randomly throughout the week with some Star Citizen as well.
Good. That's what we like to hear. So yeah, if you guys want to check out ThatCrazyTonkGuy, then I'll put a link in the description and on the screen now. And yeah, you guys can go over and check him out and look at his awesome dogs. Okay, so yeah, don't forget we are running our competition for the entirety of the month of December. So if you want to win that Cutlass Red, then get commenting on this and every video up until around about the 25th. I'm hoping to give that to some lucky bugger on Christmas Day, so that should be fun. And as Tonk said, we are all taking part in an awesome event on the 22nd, so please, if you can join us, it will be really awesome. Loads of cool stuff being given away, so if you want ships and clothing and all that good stuff, then yeah, join us 22nd, all-day event. We'll post on our Discord the timings of when we'll be streaming, so sign up to our Discord if you want to get involved. Yeah, definitely check out Tonk's Discord as well, because there's some cool stuff going on over there. And I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, thanks everyone so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Cheers.